Good morning. I'm Kristen Collins from Information Technology Services, and I'm here today for our ITS Connect session, which is going to be focused on Google Calendar. Now, throughout the presentation, just so you know, I have a hard time keeping my eyes on the chat box, but if you do have a question, go ahead and type it in, and if I miss it, I will try to get back to it later. Today's session should last about 30 minutes. I'm going to try to end it a little bit before 12 so we can take questions, but if any of you have attended before, you know I'm kind of long-winded, so I'll try to avoid that again. All right, so let's get down to business on using webcalendar.case.edu for your scheduling needs. So in case you're not aware, this is our enterprise calendaring service that we use now at Case Western Reserve. It's powered by Google Apps for Education, and it's available through the URL webcalendar.case.edu. Some of you might choose to use Outlook or Calendar for Mac to do your schedule instead. That's okay, but I do want to warn you that today's presentation is going to focus solely on the web interface at webcalendar.case.edu. So what I want to do today for you is to help you learn about ways to manage your own schedule and that of your organization, and find quick ways to enter and manage appointments. Of course, I want us to be able to work smarter, not harder. So on today's agenda, we're going to cover a few basic principles of Google Calendar. We're going to talk about sharing, views of Google Calendar, appointment slots, events, managing multiple calendars, and some helpful tips. So as we go through this presentation, I'm going to switch back and forth between showing you my desktop and using the PowerPoint. First of all, in case you're not familiar with logging into Web Calendar, we go to the URL webcalendar.case.edu, and we get to the single sign-on screen where we sign in with our Case network IDs and passwords. Some of the basic principles that you need to be familiar with are the following. Everyone at Case has one calendar that's associated with their network ID, so that is your main calendar. You can create as many calendars as you want for yourself, your organization, a room, or anyone else you know, but it'll all be based on your account. You can see anyone else's calendar, so that goes for the Case domain or anywhere in Google Apps, as long as the individual has opened it for others to see in their own personal calendar settings. The types of calendars that you're going to see are the calendars that you own, which are listed under My Calendars, and the calendars that are shared with you by others that are listed under Other Calendars. You can search for other people's calendars by typing in their name or their network ID into the search field that's located in the Other Calendars search field. So now I want to get into sharing your calendar with others. There is the public option for your calendar, and there's the crew domain only option. And then there are levels of access within that. So right now I want to stop sharing my presentation and start sharing my screen with you. This is my calendar. I'm going to let you into my life a little bit here. This is my case.edu Google Apps calendar. And right now, I'm looking at a week-long view. This is my preferred default view. And over here, I talked really recently about My Calendars and Other Calendars. If you look at where my cursor is, over here by Other Calendars, or sorry, My Calendars, these are the calendars that I own. So I've either created them or someone else created them, and they gave me access to edit the calendars and the events on them. There's also Other Calendars that you can see down here, and these are calendars that I subscribe to or people have given me access to. So in here I could see my coworkers' calendars if they've allowed the public to see them, or crew.edu to see them, and other things like our ITS events calendar, my friends' calendars, US holidays, our organizational calendars that we use for tracking the time we're going to be out of the office, and so on and so forth. Those are all available under Other Calendars. So let's talk about sharing a little bit. If you go up to your calendar settings, it's this little gear that says Options in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. When you click on that, you have a couple items. I'm going to click on Calendar Settings. And that's going to take me to settings for the entire calendar application, as well as settings for individual calendars. So if I click on the Calendars link, I'm going to see the calendars that I own, as well as other calendars that I've subscribed to. So if I look at my calendar, which is named after me, Kristen Collins, I can see the sharing settings for that and choose what notifications I want to get. I'm going to click on Shared, Edit Settings, that link, and it's going to tell me what kind of access I've allowed others to have to my calendar. First of all, I have checked Share this calendar with others. Then underneath that, I have Share this calendar with everyone in the organization, Case Western Reserve University. I don't have Make this calendar public because then anyone in the world could search for my calendar, and I'm just not that open of a person. Now, next to Share this calendar with Case Western Reserve, I have two options. There is See All Event Details and also See Only Free and Busy Time, Hide Details. That's what I have chosen here. What that means is that any of you right now, and you're free to do this if you want, can go to the other calendar section of your own calendar, type in my name, and bring up my calendar. And what you're going to see is all the appointments on my calendar marked as busy. You're not going to see the details. So you're not going to know when I have different meetings or what they are. You're just going to see when I am busy, all right? And you're going to see the times that I'm not busy because there's going to be nothing there. So that's free busy time only. Now, underneath Share with Specific People, which is down here where my cursor is now, I have two people, as well as myself, listed. They are my coworker Jennifer and my manager Kirsten. Now, I have different details set up for them. So instead of just seeing free and busy time, I want these two individuals specifically to see my event details because of our closeness at work and because I want them to have a little bit more insight into my schedule. So for this first person here, in the event permission settings drop-down box, I've chosen See All Event Details, but there are other options I could select as well to allow her to see different parts of my calendar. The first option is Make Changes and Manage Sharing. What this means is that once I put something on my calendar, this person could go in and make changes to this calendar entry. They could add people to the event, they could take people away, they can change the location and the description. In addition to that, they could also share my calendar with others. Okay, so that's not a setting that I'm prepared to give, but this might work better for some of you. There's also the Make Changes to Events setting. What this means is that once I create an event, this person can come in and make changes to it just like before, but they cannot change the sharing settings for my personal calendar, so they can't share it with others. That's a much safer sharing setting. Now, I have Jennifer set here to See All Event Details. So she can't make changes to my appointments because we right now don't have a reason to be able to do that for each other, but she can see all event details. So if she needs to know where I am, she can go to my calendar and look that up and find out. Let's see. I have a message, and I will get to that later. I could see that someone messaged me, but since I'm sharing my screen, I'll get to that in just a second. The last option is See Only Free in Busy Time. So since I set that as the top level of access for everybody at Case, I'm not going to assign that level of access to individuals because there's no need to do it at the individual setting if I've applied that to the entire university. So for these two individuals, they can see all event details. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about making changes to events and what that means. In addition to making changes to events, a person can also put events on your calendar for you. That's different from adding a guest to an event. That means someone can create an event and assign it to my calendar rather than making me a guest at an event. So I'm going to get into that a little bit more later. So when you say make any changes, just so you know, there is a save button and you can save or cancel out of your changes. And I am going to cancel. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. All right, so I talked about our sharing settings and our levels of access. And since I'm back, I'm going to look at Suzanne's question. If your calendar is open to Crew and someone subscribes to your calendar using the other calendar search box, are you as the owner notified? That's a good question. Or can you see somewhere who has... and I can't see the rest of it. Who has subscribed to your calendar? That is a very good question, Suzanne, and I don't know the answer off the top of my head. So if I get a chance, I'm going to look into that at the end of our session. If not, please feel free to send me the question via email, and that is kristen.collins@case.edu. I will go ahead and type it into our notes box down here. in case I don't get around to answering your questions. So that is in the links pod that's right underneath our chat. So I hope that helps. So I talked about sharing your calendar with specific people. So you can purposely share it with others, and then you can also have it subscribed to by others. So if you're going to open it up to Crew and you aren't sure who's going to be subscribed to your calendar, I would keep it as free busy time display only so that you're not showing events to people that you don't know or subscribe to your calendar. Given how unsure I am about whether or not you can see who can access your calendar, I think it's a best practice to keep it at free and busy time only. That's my recommendation. So, a couple best practices that I want you to be aware of. The best practice for convenience of scheduling and privacy is to share with Case Western Reserve only as free and busy time only. And then if individuals need access to see events or make changes to events on your calendar or add events to your calendar, you can add them to the Share with Specific People section, that was the bottom section of the page we were just looking at, and give them the rights that they need individually. So for example, if you're in a situation where your boss needs details to your event, you can give that access to just your boss, and maybe if you have a backup in your department so that if you're out, someone else performs your work for you and they need to be able to change events on your calendar or make events to group calendars, you can give them the right to make changes to events, maybe manage sharing even. So that's completely up to you. But this is a best practice that I found has worked for me and some of the people that I know on campus. So calendar views is the next thing I want to talk about. We have, by default, you're given the option of a day-only view, a week view, a month view, a customizable view, and then an agenda view. I prefer the week view. I like to see the beginning and end of the week. Okay, it's going to show you Monday through Friday, or if you choose, Sunday through Saturday. And as time moves forward, you're still going to see the days that passed in that week. Now, the customizable view allows you to choose a number of days into the future that you want to see, and this is a dynamic view. So for every day that we inch forward on the calendar, you're going to see one more day in your view. So if you have a 7-day outlook view that is customizable, then you'll be able to see from Thursday today, 7 days out, including weekends. That's a great view if you only don't want to see the past, you don't care about what happened this week, you only want to see going forward what your schedule looks like. And by fitting in 7 days, you can see into the next week as well. The agenda view is going to be a list of the events that you have upcoming. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay, we're sharing my screen again. Going back to my calendar. And right now, again, I'm on the week view. And it defaults to show 12 a.m. at this beginning time. I don't like that. I'm going to show you how to get rid of that later. So if I scroll down, I can see my 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. time. This is what a day looks like. We know what week looks like. Month is significantly compressed. And then here's 7 days. So you can see a 7-day outlook for all the calendars that I've turned on. And I'll tell you what calendars I have turned on. I have my own calendar turned on. I have a test calendar turned on from a Google account that we own within ITS. And I also have my personal calendar turned on. I'll tell you more about that later. But I can see everything, even through the weekends, into 7 days from now. So I can see up to next Wednesday. The agenda view, again, is just a list of things in the calendars that I've turned on for myself to see that are going on. So if I turn off this test calendar, some events drop down off of the agenda, and I can turn that back on as well. So those are the views that you need to be aware of. Okay, so going back into my PowerPoint. Appointment slots. This is relatively new. This is not something I've used personally, but this could be of great assistance to some of you out there, especially if you're managing an office where you have a lot of visitors and you have to make appointments for those visitors with whoever they're visiting. So I'm thinking about advising centers like undergraduate studies, graduate studies, any school that wants to use Google Calendar to give appointments to students, or any administrators that want to have appointments with vendors or whomever. There's a bunch of ways that you can use this. So I'm just going to show you a few features of appointments. Appointment slots can be created per day. You can create slots in any time increment. And when you create appointment slots, it creates a public page that you can send people to. So this could be students, employees, staff. It could even be vendors if they have Google Apps access, and anyone can take a time in that slot. And you can also manage the slots for the person that needs it. So let me, again, take you back to my screen, and I will show you what that looks like. So I've created an appointment slot. What I did is on my test calendar for Casey Test, if you can see this here in the lower left-hand corner, I created an academic advising 30-minute slot time period between 8 and 11 a.m. When I click on this, you're going to see a very different view from when you create regular events. What I have here is the title academic advising. This is just something, just an example. You create an appointment slot by adding, let's say I'm going to click right here. Click anywhere on the calendar, it creates an event bubble. Up at the top, it defaults to event, but you also have the opportunity of clicking on appointment slots, and it has the little new next to it because this is recent. So I'm going to click appointment slots, and it changes my screen a little bit. It says what? I'm going to put academic advising again because I've run out of ideas. On the calendar, which calendar do you want to put it on? I'm going to change this. These are the calendars I have access to make changes to. So there's a lot. Not only do I have my own calendar, I have the test account I created and a bunch of ITS calendars. I'm going to put this on my test calendar. I can offer this as a single appointment slot or in slots of 30 minutes as the default, or even 45 or 1 hour, but it's all done by minutes. So I'm going to put in 60 minutes here, and I'm going to say create slots. So now from 12 to 1, I have 60-minute slots. So I can expand that by clicking on my appointment and dragging it down the screen, or I could open it and change the end time. So now I'm going to click on the title, and that's going to take me to the editing page. Oh my. It looks a little bit funky, I think, because I'm sharing a screen with our camera operators here. But here you can change this so that you can change the times, you can change the appointment slot length, you can add a location, you can add a description, and the link that it gives you is the link where people go to choose an appointment. So what I'm going to show you is, let's see. So this is the public view right here. You can see 30-minute academic advising slots here between 8 and 11. And then down here, 60-minute advising slots between 12 and 4. So if I'm a student and I have access to this public calendar, I can click on any one of these appointments and I get a book and appointment screen. And I can put in where, description, save. It adds it to the student or staff member or whomever's calendar so that it's assigned to this person in the appointment slot, and it's also available on the appointment slot calendar. So let's see, someone's raised their hand. Unfortunately, we're not doing the raising hand thing, but Catherine, if you'd like to, go ahead and add your question to the chat box, and I will get to it as soon as I can. Thank you. I see that you're typing now. That's great. So that's what appointment slots are about. So let me go back to my PowerPoint so I can look at Catherine's question. All right, if you do this, then do they see your entire calendar? That's a good question. Let's see. Depends on your calendar sharing settings. So if you display free and busy time only to the rest of campus, they're only going to see your events displayed as free and busy time, unless it's an appointment slot, and then they'll see the names of the appointment slots. The reason that when I went to that link that I could see all the details is because I was looking at my own calendar. And Google knows who you are when you're looking at a calendar based on how you're signed in to single sign-on. So in this case, I was signed in as myself. You kind of get it there, I think. So it is a way, again, free busy time is the best practice for sharing your calendar with the entire university so that people can find information or try to book you for either an appointment or add you to an event. Let's see. Suzanne's typing. I think she's going to come up with a question. You're welcome, Catherine. Let's see, Suzanne, if you want people outside of Crew to be able to schedule appointments, such as a vendor, do you have to have the calendar containing the appointments as open to the public? Yes, I'm going to say yes to that because it is going to know the difference between an @case.edu login and a non-@case.edu login. So yes, it will have to be public. Again, this might be a good opportunity for you to create a different calendar to make these appointment slots. So instead of your own personal calendar, your Network ID at case.edu calendar, you can create another one. And I'm going to talk about that shortly. So that might be a really good option if you're going to use appointment slots and try to line up time with people that are outside of the university. Hope that answered your question. If not, please feel free to email me at the end of the session. Okay, I only have 9 minutes left. Let me tell you, that went faster than I expected. I'm going to flip through a few things here because I think there's some things that you'd rather hear about instead of creating an event. So managing events. I'm going to skip over the creating thing. I think you're all intelligent enough to figure that out. There are multiple ways you can add events. Please experiment. You can't hurt anything. Managing multiple calendars and managing events kind of come under the same heading. You can mark special events with a color. You get to choose a whole color for your calendar, and then you can have special events with a certain color so they stand out for you. You might find that as a good way of seeing your calendar at a glance and understanding what's important maybe, or maybe some repeated meetings. You can use colors as you please. You can add reminders to meetings so that you get little pop-ups when it's almost time for a meeting. You can set that as a default setting so all your events get reminders, or you could do it per event. You can add details like location and description and attachments if you have the lab enabled. That means you can add Google Docs attachments to the calendar. You're welcome, Suzanne. And you can also add guests. And so you can choose from anyone in Case Western Reserve. Doesn't matter if you can see their calendar or not, but you can add anyone to an event. And you can use the Find a Time option on the event details screen, or you can look up calendars of others, display them on your own calendar, and find a free time. So let me explain to you what I mean by that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. Cancel out of this. So right now, you are looking at my calendar, Casey Test's calendar, and I also have my personal calendar turned on. Let's say I need to schedule an appointment with me and one of my coworkers. So down here under other calendars, work for me. It's not scrolling. Oh, I think I might be frozen actually. Let me see if I can refresh my calendar. That happens sometimes. I confused it. All right. Other calendars. So I'm going to choose Jennifer here. And so her calendar comes up, and as you can see, she has her calendar set up with me, so I just see when she's free or busy. So I can't see the details of her calendar. That's okay. So I need to schedule an appointment with Jennifer, and I want to do it on Thursday. It's just me and Jennifer, so I can take other things out of here, like my personal calendar, I can turn that off, and also Casey Test, I can turn that off. So a couple things were removed from the calendar, so it's a little bit cleaner now. So now I can see that neither Jennifer nor I have any appointments tomorrow at 1. So I can just click in the 1 o'clock spot for my calendar, and I can put in a training meeting, and it will go to my calendar by default. And I can click create event or edit event. If I click edit event, it takes me to this screen. On this screen, I can enter Jennifer's name into the guests and add her to that, where Care Center, let's chat. I can add attachments, I can change colors, I can add a reminder, but this is really all I have to do. When I click save, it's going to ask me, do you want to send invitations to guests? I could say send or don't send. I'm going to not send. Jennifer, I know you're watching. Don't freak out. We don't have to meet tomorrow. So it's that easy to schedule something. My other option, if I'm going to schedule an event, is to go to Find a Time. There's the event details, and then there's Find a Time. If I click on Find a Time, I have to add my guests one by one. So I could have multiple guests. It could just be 1-on-1, or it could be 1 to 5, whatever it is. And it's going to show all their calendars. So let me put in Kirsten. I'll put in Dean. So here's a whole bunch of my coworkers. I can see when they're free and busy. So each column represents a person. And so I will have to find a time where all the columns are free. if I want to meet with everybody. So I can choose the 11 o'clock slot and save that, and then everyone will get an invitation. So find a time has been really great for me. But either way, if you want to just add calendars to your view and then turn them off when you're done, or use find a time, I think it's pretty simple to find a way to meet with everybody at once. I'm going to discard this so my friends don't get a whole bunch of invitations from me. All right, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint, and I need to wrap things up. Let's see. Mary Lou Smith wants to know, can you add any attachment or just Google Docs? Mary Lou, what's going to happen is when you add an attachment, say from your computer, it's going to transition it into a Google Doc. So that's how that works. So you don't get to choose whether or not, you're welcome, whether or not it is originally a Google Doc or not. But if it is originally a Google Doc, you just take the URL from the Google Doc and you add it that way. All right, let me see. What am I going to cover last? Multiple calendars. This is important. Delegation, I think, is really important for some of you. I know some of you work in departments where you're in charge of multiple calendars. You need to be able to make appointments on multiple calendars. Delegation is the way to do that. It doesn't require you to sign it as someone else. It allows you to have access to, say, your boss or your coworkers' calendars so that you can create events and invite people on their behalf, so they don't have to create it. You will, however, if you're given create and edit rights to a calendar, be able to see all of the owner's events on the calendar. For that reason, if you're going to set this up, make sure that whomever you're sharing a calendar with is well aware that you can see all the details they put on their calendar. Because some people, like myself, use it also for personal events. So completely up to you whether you do this or not, but it's a great option for being able to manage other people's calendars. I've added a doc into our file share that I'll display in just a second here. It's called Google Calendar for Administrative Assistants. And this is a great document for anyone. I've used a lot of tips from it as well. So I'm going to add this into our file share here in just a second. And helpful tips, last but not least, what I've done to manage my personal events, just so you're aware, is I did create a personal calendar. What I do is if I have something like a doctor's appointment or a family appointment that I want to put on my calendar and block off time in my office calendar so that people know I'm not available during that time, what I do is I create the event on my personal calendar, which is an option when I create the event. Then I copy it using the copy this event feature to my calendar, but I change the title to busy. That way, I have the same amount of time blocked off on my personal calendar and also my professional calendar. So even if it's something I don't want to give details about, everyone knows I'm not available at that time. So that's my trick for getting time marked off on your calendar that you're not going to be available, but keeping your personal details private, because anyone who has sharing settings with you that is greater than for your busy can see all your event details regardless of whether you've marked the actual event as private or public, which is an event setting. So you can't really trust that when you're sharing calendars with others at the edit event level. Rhonda wants to know, we use Outlook in our office. Does ITS offer something like this for Outlook? If you mean a training session, at this time, no. I'm kind of sticking towards the stuff that everybody uses across campus, Rhonda. However, I will be happy to come into your office personally and talk to you guys about using Outlook. I'm not that great of an expert on it, but I'm sure we could research some stuff. I tend to go with these sessions, the ITS Connect sessions, I'm more towards campus-wide. But Rhonda, feel free to email me, kristen.collins@case.edu. I can see what we can set up just for your office. All right? All right, guys, well, we are nearly out of time, so I want to thank you very much for being here today. Look for me again next month for ITS Connect. Have a great day.